Hari Om. Let's start with the prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Amadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are analyzing now the five koshas because we have to use viveka. Viveka is a discriminative intellect to differentiate that which is nityam and that which is anityam. Nityam means that which is eternal and that which is ephemeral, anityam, or currently experienced but not absolutely real because it is changing. So incidentally we are mentioning that Navya Nyaya defines an object according to the Nyaya, the logic is that which is Pragabhava Pratiyogini. That's how they define an object. Object is that Prag Abhavam, that which is not there before. See how they define the object. Prag Abhavam, that which has not seen or not existing before. So Prag Abhava Pratiyogini. So it is counter to its previous non-existence. So that's how I define object. So object is one which is counter to its previous non-existence. That's what is called Agamapayitvam. It was not there before and it is now there and it will not be there perhaps in the future also. So that which came only right now, and that's what is essentially called an object. And that which can be perceived, obviously drusyatvam, or if it is not perceived, at least it can be thought of or it can be conceptualized. So perception at the intellectual level is called the cognitive process, or is essentially called is a conceptual concept, and I know it, therefore anything I know is an object. That's how we also analyze in terms of vidya. Avidya means ignorance. Ignorance is an object or not? Ignorance I know. I say, do you know chemistry? I don't know. How do you know that you don't know? That I know. So I know what I know what I don't know. Both are objects of my knowledge. Therefore, that is drusyatvam, comes under knowability. So perceptibility or knowability, transactability is how Gaudapada uses to define that it is not really Brahman. So anything that is perceptible, anything that is knowable, and anything that is transactable, all that does not come under absolute reality. Because these things we can do even in the dream also. Dream objects are perceptible, knowable, transactable, all that because five senses are working in the dream also, in the dream body, in that dream world. Therefore, the only criteria that is valid for a reality or absolute reality, and other things only apparently real, and that is that nityatvam, that which remains the same all the time, that is unchanging, and that which is unchanging has to be infinite, because any finite cannot be any finite is agamapayitvam, that keeps coming, and that's how the definition of Navinyaya. Pag abhava Pratiyogini. Pratiyogini means counter to Prag Abhava, previous non-existence. So current object, since I am seeing it, there is an object, is counter to previous non-existence. That means there is a beginning for it. And therefore, that which has a beginning, Krishna says, must have an end. Therefore, anything that has a beginning has to have an end. Therefore, it is an object, but not the subject. So therefore, if the body has a beginning, when I say people ask the question, say, when are you born? So what is your date of birth? That means I am born, that means I come, and when I say I am born, I am assuming I am praga bhava pratyogini. That means I am countered to previous non-existence. So before the birth, I was not there. So whatever that was born has to die. That's what Krishna says. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. That which is born has to die. Therefore, Krishna, either you say your body, then it's going to die anyway. So why are you crying it? If I say in Telugu, it says, every time you sneeze, the nose is going to fall down, then what are you going to do? Worry about it. Because it's going to fall down anyway. It doesn't belong to you. That which will belong to you will stick to you. And therefore, that which is remain permanent alone can be real. That which is temporary cannot be real. Now, in the Pancha Kosha, the five kosha, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. These are the five koshas that we define, and these are discussed exhaustively in the Taittiriya Upanishad. So, in the student is Bhrigu, and he approaches his father, the Varuna, says, "Sir, hey Bhagavan, please teach me that Brahman, or the knowledge of the absolute reality." So, for that, how can it is? He gives you an indicatory definition for us to contemplate. So he says, what is Brahman? From which the whole universe came, by which it is sustained, and into which it goes back. That's how we define the Ishvara Swarupam. And that's how the Bhrigu Maharshi was given by his teacher. The Varuna says, Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayam tabisham vishanti tad vijnasasva tad brahmeti. That is Brahman. Go and inquire. What is that? From which the whole universe came, by which it is sustained, and into which it goes back. That alone is Brahman. So Brahman goes and meditates on that statement and comes back to his teacher, says, I discovered. Please let me know I am right or wrong. Says, what is that? He says, from Annam, that means from the food, all the beings are being born. By Annam or by food, they are sustained, and into Annam they become. And that is what is the truth. Because it fits in the definition, Yatova imani bhutani jayante, from which all beings are born. So food is the Brahman. That's what the Bhrigu Maharshi's first understanding. And this is the way the teaching is. So then the teacher says, no, what you say is not right. Because go and inquire further. Go and do meditation more into inquiry proper. So this is what is called stages of Adhyaropa Apavada. So we should be familiar with this, because in Advaita Vedanta, the philosophical tradition is to teach step by step. This is Brahman, and until I come to that stage, we do that worship as though it is. Then it says at that time, it says that's not Brahman, the next level, and that's called Adhyaropa Apavada. So Adhyaropa means this is Brahman, is superimposition as though that is Brahman. And once you understand up to that point, then it says that's not Brahman. Think deeper, that which is beyond all that is the one Brahman. So that's called a step-by-step process. So if you want to stop at this, oh, this is Brahman, and conclude that, then you are the one that loses. In fact, in the Chandogya Upanishad, there is a Brahmaji announces for a camp is going on. Those who want to learn Vedanta, please come and join. So we also advertise like that, please come and join. But how many people register? At least we think, oh, not many people are registered. For Brahmaji camp, when he made big announcement in all the three lokas, only 2 people registered. That is, one is Indra, another is Virochana. So one is the king of gods, and another is the king of Rakshasas. Both registered for this camp. Then Brahmaji starts teaching, and he takes class once in 30 years or 32 years. So he says, so find out what is a food. So he started about Annamaya Kosha. So when he talked about Annamaya Kosha as a part of the Brahman, so this is called Adhyaropa Apavada. The Virochana went and thought about it and says, yes, this must be correct. So then I don't need any more less. Now I know. What is that? Annamaya Kosha is the Brahman. So what I have to do? Feed myself whatever I can eat. So he concluded that's Brahman, and from then on he decided there is no further point for me to go for class, because now I understood. Whereas Indra talked about it, how can I be Brahman, how can Annam be Brahman? So he comes back to Brahmaji and asks for further, and Brahmaji guides one step by step unto ultimate truth. So of the two students, one dropped out and other one, only one student remained, and like that every time the Indra has to go step by step by Annamaya, Pranamaya, Vijnanamaya, Manomaya, Anandamaya, ultimately what is the absolute truth, and that's what he gained. So Indra is essentially the only one that sustained it through the process. Indra is also intellect. So intellect actually has to inquire into the nature of Brahman to discover the Brahman. There is also a story in the Kenopanishad. We will discuss that when the appropriate time. But here we should know that it is Adhyaropa Apavada teaching methodology in the Advaita philosophy, and in the scriptures also, as you go into Taittiriya Upanishad, in terms of how Bhrigu gained the knowledge from his teacher. So at each level, this is taken as though Brahman, and is dropped to the next level. And that's how the Kenopanishad we mentioned. So until then, until I realize the mind is purified enough, I consider the Ishvara is out there, and worshipping the Ishvara for Upasana, for Karma Yoga is important until my mind has become purified. When do I know the mind has become purified? If you can listen and sit quietly and grasp the Vedantic knowledge, that means your mind is purified enough to learn Vedanta. Further purification is done by the Vedantic study itself, because the more and more you listen and keep the mind circulating in that realm, it becomes obviously withdraws from other pursuits in life. So other pursuits are essentially pulled out, and the mind is withdrawn from that and try to invest something that's much more meaningful for the life, and that's what is essentially Vairagyam and Mumukshutvam will guide further for the Viveka. So all that are implied in the analysis. All this background is important, because now we are talking about sadhana. Say, this is not just listening to lecture, but assimilating and practicing at this level. Says, am I this? I am not this. And therefore, who am I? Has to go into the deeper analysis. And whenever I identify myself with the Annamaya Kosha, then this signal has to come, red signal, because my suffering is related to the identification with the Annamaya Kosha. So what are the qualities of Annamaya Kosha? That's what we go into this sloka of this 156 in the Viveka Chudamani. There the Panchakoshas are discussed, and we will take some of the slokas there as a part of our sadhana to inquire what is this body and what is it made up of, so that I can see anything that comes under that, I am not that. So in the sloka 156, it says, Dehoyam Anna Bhavanaha Annamayastu Koshaha Yannena Jivati Vinasyati Tadvihinaha Tvacharma Mamsa Rudirasti Purisha Rasihi Nayam Swayam Bhavatumarhati Nitya Suddha. So let's read again. Dehoyam, the Aham Deha, Ayam Deha. So Dehoyam Anna Bhavanaha. So it's made up of Annam. This body is made up of Annam. Annam is food. Annamayastu Koshaha. Therefore it's called Annamaya Kosha. And Yannena Jivati. He indeed, Annena, by food only, it is Jivati, it is sustained. And Vinasyati Tadvihinaha. When food is not there, it gets dissipated slowly. So if you don't feed the body, it becomes thinner and thinner, ultimately you collapse. And Tvak Charma Mamsa Rudirasti Purisha Rasihi. Rasihi means it is a group of essentially assemblage of all these. I think we did that before in terms of Sthula Sariram, Tvak, Charma, Mamsa, Rudhi, essentially the skin and the flesh, and the mamsam, the rudhira, the fat, asti, the bones, and purisham, purisha rasihi, and all the excreted matter, everything else is nothing but is an assemblage of all this, essentially. Nayam swayam bhavatum arhati nitya suddhaha. Now I am, this body cannot be me. Bhavatu. So swayam arhati. So nitya suddhaha. Because I am perfectly pure. Nityam, eternally pure. Pure means what? So it's not the purity, that relative purity, but that's also required. But what is purity? Purity is that something, dust is not there. What is a dirt? Dirt is something other than the original. So my body is dirty, it means what? There is something else other than the body on top of my body. Therefore, I have to wash it. So I have to do a karma to clean myself at the body level. So same way, the mind is dirty. Mind is dirty because it has got impurity. What's the impurity? Something other than itself is being superimposed. All the problems that are the agitations and all that are part of impurity of the mind. And same way the intellect also. So therefore, the purity here is that annam, the atma is nitya suddhaha. Nitya Suddha means eternally pure. So it never gets impure at all. Akashavatu. The space doesn't get impure by itself. Space is pure. Because even though we say the space is stinking, it's not the space that is stinking, it is something other than the space is superimposed in the space, some dirty smell or something else is there. So we open the doors and blast the air so that the air takes away all the dirt, the vasanas are